I'm sure. So, I should have thought about this before, right? So what I had planned for now was basically a 40-minute German-style lecture, like heads down and just reading aloud. I'm sure you're waiting for that right now. Fantastic. So let's not do that, I guess, right? There are slides. That's awesome. Okay, so very different, and I will not even try to match even James, never going to match that. It's not a book talk. It's really more, when James thinks about maybe what could happen like 100 years from now, I'm here to, and how to expropriate Google, let's not forget. So I'm going to talk about next Thursday, okay? Next Thursday, that's my topic. Let's see how that goes. I don't promise anything. All right, yeah. So I'm so happy to see many of you here, and I just really feel that I wanted to start by dedicating this talk to Ela Bhatt, who just passed away 2 days ago. So she was the founder of Seva, which is an Indian activist and cooperative organizer who incorporated literacy programs and thought about how she could bring women who were previously thought of as unbankable into a bank, right? To found a bank. So in 1974, she brought together women to establish Seva Bank. They raised $1,300, with women contributing as much as 13 cents each. And out of that, she created a bank that has millions of dollars today. And so that's, I just want to dedicate this talk to her because we talked about scaling, and Seva really then began to scale, and now is a union on the one hand with 1 million members and a cooperative federation with over 300,000 women. Okay, so I never met Ela Bhatt, but I did meet countless women whose life had been touched by her and substantially changed. And I believe that Seva believes that if you want to substantially change anything, you have to own it. And I think that also extends to digital platforms. And so she also believed that women are the central agents of transformation. And over the past few years, Seva has been starting to experiment with platform cooperatives. And so this is where my talk begins. Okay? Now come the 40 pages, German style, looking down. All right, so what I want to do with this talk is really quite simple. So it's not really a book talk. My book isn't out yet, so got to come to my book talk when I come back next year. This is really just about we are here at this conference, which is about platform cooperatives. I should probably tell you what a platform co-op is. I should probably also tell you something about this organization, the PCC. So it's not the PCC that you might be familiar with. You can say you spent your day with the PCC. No. So let's just do, this is what I want to do. I want to just tell you a little bit about platform co-ops, the PCC, give you just 3-4 examples because we haven't really talked about that much, right? So we jumped in and a lot of people evoked all these issues, but I'm sure there are many of you here who haven't really seen this. So let's give you 3 examples. And then I want to give you just really, for question of time, because we're already vastly over time, just a few insights, I guess, because I looked around the room and I think most of you are really, surprise, surprise, not academics. Maybe raise your hand if you're an academic. Don't be ashamed. All right, okay, see, not that many. And so what I want to do is really more impart some, in a way, practical insights, right, from what I've learned over the last 8 years from traveling the world and talking and seeing a lot of platform co-ops fail and succeed, and just 3 or 4 things because we don't have much time. And then feel free to jump in at any time because so rather than starting to check Twitter and check in what Elon Musk has to say, just jump in if you have a question. This is not a lecture like that, so just jump in and ask a question at any time. Okay. All right. So let's just do this quickly, right? So platform co-ops are businesses that sell goods and services primarily, right, through websites. We also think of mobile apps or protocols. So this answers this question. Are DAOs or data cooperatives, are they also platform co-ops? And so we try to figure this in quickly. Then also primarily, right, because not every co-op with a website is a platform co-op. Surprise, surprise. And, well, as we heard already many times before, unlike traditional companies, which are owned by shareholders and motivated by profits, these co-ops are owned and operated by their users and workers, and it's not a model. So I think this is really something that's important, right? Also, when you talk about it, right, like, don't ever, please, say the platform co-op model, because it's really more like a series of experiments, right, with many different models and many different things going on. All right. So then, principles, right? So how many of you are familiar with the ICA principles? So I need to run you through this. So you see, a quarter of the room. That's cool. So there are actually principles that are guiding the 1 billion people all over the world. 19 million people in this country are guided by these principles. And they are, right? So cooperation among cooperatives, right? So they're actually mandated and guided and encouraged to cooperate. So think of data commons and data trusts you could build, all the things if co-ops would actually do that. Wouldn't that be awesome, right? Or democratic member control, we talked about that a lot. Concern for community, right? Also something that, a lot of co-ops strive towards, right? And autonomy and independence, right? And this is when I suggested in a policy paper that I will introduce in a second that, God forbid, municipalities should get involved in co-ops. I got angry emails from co-op leaders saying, like, did you ever read the 7 principles? Like, they're autonomous and independent. So it's like, well, what about it? Like, why don't we experiment with that and try new things? So education and training, right? When you think about Uber or all these companies here, iFood, right? They would never think of train their workers, right? So, okay. So here, just as a sort of quick run through, these are the guiding principles. We have a website. Some of you may not have seen it. And there you can find a lot of information, also in Portuguese. The website is translated into Portuguese. And now I just want to talk about, like, essentially, what does the PCC do and how do we do it? So the PCC has spearheaded the effort to put platform co-ops on the map of the digital economy, from leadership in the world of ideas to building an extensive international network. You are now all part of it. From a regular engagement with existing and emerging projects and organizing the largest conference on platform cooperativism every year, to training beginners, founders, and research scholars, right? So building on the long history of worker struggles, we are building a global movement, right? Or part of building a global movement of workers and allies fighting for justice in the digital economy. So the PCC, again, not the PCC that you know here, offers research fellowships to scholars working in a wide range of topics related to the cooperative digital economy, from blockchain to policy. So you will see many of these like wonderful, brilliant young scholars here who come to present. Our aim is to assist in the development of this emerging academic field. And in addition, we also operate infrastructure for platform co-ops across the world. So that by that I mean we have a directory, right, which you might see here, where you can find digital cooperative projects in your country or your city, so you can find the others, right? We are also continuously adding to that. We also want to add you, so individuals as well, so that if somebody in Rio says, I'm interested in this, they could actually find you personally, right? We have a resource library, we have a tool library where somebody who wants to start a platform co-op next Thursday, for childcare, let's say, can see what did somebody else who also tried to do that use, right? Which software did they use? Open source, proprietary, what did they use? So we envision also this as a space to share strategies and challenges, but also formulate and advocate for policy changes that promote the growth of platform co-ops. So we have done that with the Social Democrats in Germany. We've done that with the Labour Party, who had made it part of their directive for the internet. We worked with Christine Gillibrand in the United States, the Senator Lula, President Lula, I should say, endorsed platform cooperatives. We work with the government in Kerala and other governments as well. So we're also committed to educating workers about platform co-ops and the cooperative digital economy. So we offer courses, right? Another one starting very soon, so you can contact us if you're interested. And that ecosystem today has 539 projects in 42 countries. And that is not at all complete, right? This is the one we are aware of. Of course, there are many more that we have never heard about, or also who may not self-identify in that way, right? You may not self-identify. So I think some people mentioned the book. So if there ever will be a book talk, it will be on that book that you see there on the right, on this. So this is coming very soon. We've done a series of events. So this is basically coming out, right? This is the 7th of these platform cooperative conferences. And yeah, and so I think maybe now comes this bit where I share my deep wisdom. No, but seriously, one thing that I think really matters, and this, I think I would really mean this very wholeheartedly and very seriously, is a sense of network pragmatism, I might call it, which is that too often, right, co-op advocates, union leaders, or others, get caught up in the debate over which organizational model is best, right? So, and it really becomes almost proto-religious, right? So co-ops, unions, ESOPs, B Corps, DAOs, and so forth, right? And all of their proponents and detractors. And what matters most, however, isn't really the form of the organization, and I said that before today, right? But the results that it achieves for people, right? This isn't about creating 1,000 more co-ops, right? This is about helping people. So, a sort of a neo-religious tunnel vision commitment to the advancement of a single model really doesn't help, no matter what the model is. I would say the same about unions, but I would also say that about co-ops. Here I quote Aris Menderetta, and my Basque colleagues will be delighted, who said that human beings come first, then come cooperatives, right? And so Aris Menderetta, the founder of Mondragon, liked to say that. And if an organizational model improves their life, then it has done its job regardless of whether it takes the form of a co-op, a union, or really anything else. So for me, winning isn't a question of either or. It's really a proposition of both and, right? And that's why I'm also a sort of semi-card-carrying platform socialist. And so solidarity is really what is needed, I think, instead of clinging to a shaky belief in a single perspective or a point of view or a model or co-op culture, right, should embrace a diversity of approaches. So I think that would be the future of cooperatives, right, is maybe a lot of other things. And so we urgently need people with business and technology expertise, as well as those who can build and shape communities and cultures to conduct research, work on policies, coordinate efforts across the globe, and advocate publicly. So we need symbolic acts and deeply practical actions, right? So we need James, and then we need screwdrivers, right? So both, right? So you get it? Can put that in your CV. So what matters is really that we foster an atmosphere of mutual support and cooperation rooted in the conviction of a shared purpose, right? And so people ask me, there was this event in Sao Paulo, and they asked me, so what do you hope for this event here, right? And maybe this is something that I would hope for, because I'm sure I saw some people are real strong open source advocates, right? Some people really come from the co-op movement, right? Others come from blockchain. And I think walking out of this event at the end and saying that you really have sort of this shared purpose to make life for workers better, right? I think like if we can, I don't know, I can do this like slogan thing here, but that would be a thing that could use a slogan, right? So instead, what matters is that we foster an atmosphere of mutual support instead of circular firing squads, right? We need solidarity. So Aris Mandetta was once asked if Mondragon was a model for others to follow, and he responded that Mondragon is an experience and not a blueprint. And in the context, the Spanish words experiencia, sorry, my Spanish sucks even more, can also mean experiment, right? So Aris Mandetta believed that while Mondragon couldn't be replicated, the principles that underpinned it, namely solidarity, cooperation, and human dignity, could be applied anywhere, right? So platform co-ops follow a different approach, right? It's a similar approach. They are like an experiment, a multitude of forms and experiences guided by those cooperative principles, right? So I think like one of the insights was really to work with other forms of organizations as well, to work with social movements, to work with unions, to work with other social struggles, right? And come together. Also, failure is okay. We saw many groups fail, right? It's okay to fail, and the risk of failure isn't a reason not to try. It's often said that 90% of Silicon Valley companies fail. Even if that number may be lower, surely it's harder for you as a co-op because mainstream culture will see your failure as an affirmation of their belief that the model just doesn't cut it, and that worker ownership is the cause of the failure. In fact, the reason might really well be that it was just a flawed business model to start with, right? And that's something, yeah, so let's jump into like a few examples. But this is also something that I really want to drive home, like maybe just like 2 or 3 points, right? This sort of and/or approach and the sort of solidarity, but then also like a real emphasis on business, right? Because what we saw over and over again is that people get so excited about co-ops, right, that they forget that these are also businesses that have to compete in the marketplace. So they write bylaws for 2 years, which is wonderful, right? And really think about democracy a lot, but then go bankrupt, right? And we saw that a few times. All right, so a few examples. I don't know if Eric is here, or do I have to add him to my blacklist? All right. Oh, he's in trouble. All right. So yeah, just really quickly for those of you who don't know, right? So people say sometimes, well, you know, platform co-ops, it's not really a proven model. We don't really know if this will work. Well, I mean, I think if you compete in the New York City taxi market with 10% of drivers, 7,500 drivers in New York City competing with Lyft, I think that argument is much harder to make, right? So Eric will talk about his platform co-op tomorrow and really introduce that, so I'm not going to say so much. But like I said, 7,500 drivers, and they are making slightly more money than the other drivers. I think the goal is 30% more. That's what when I heard him talk last. And in January, and I hope I'm not spilling the beans here, they will also create a shareable digital infrastructure for taxi companies anywhere to launch based on their software. Okay? All right, so get ready for that. Who of you knows Co-op Cycle? 1, 2, not all of you. So essentially shared open source software, but it was a very interesting license, and that maybe gets us also a little bit to that open source topic that came up quite a few times, because I hate to break it to you, not very many platform co-ops use open source. But what they do use is peer production licenses, right? So like you have the CC Plus license, and others. So they call their Co-op Cycle calls their license the Co-opy license. But essentially what that means is that other worker co-ops, under certain conditions, are allowed to use the software commercially, but other companies cannot, right? So it's The source code is open for people to look at, but nobody can use it commercially unless they are a worker cooperative. So under the federation, and this is the key word here, right? Under the federation of Co-op Cycle, you now have 80 cooperatives that are represented by them, that share this digital infrastructure for the most part. I know Denise is the expert here, so she will tell you more about this tomorrow, and also how this is adapted in Argentina. And so I think that model, when we talk about scaling, is really what also especially people in the Global South should think about, right? Like, and this is maybe then my third or fourth point, that you should not start from scratch, you know? So we had this experience together with Mondragon University. We taught this course, Platform Co-ops Now, like 1,300 students. So we saw all these people come to us with their platform co-op projects. And I mean, it sort of breaks your heart after a while when you see how every single group in short-term rental or in taxi or in care says they will now raise several $100,000 to code their own platform. Breaks your heart. Don't do it, right? Like, find those other people. And this is why this is an internationalist project. Right? Of course Brazil is different, right? Maybe Rio is even different to Sao Paulo, you know, and all of that is all true. But like, if you want to succeed, this has to be an internationalist project where you connect with the people across the globe doing this, and where you use this shared infrastructure that is available. And Co-op Cycle is one example. Okay. All right. Very, very cool and exciting project. Pesca data coming from supported by a nonprofit called Kobe. So they are working with 250,000 fishermen in the Mexican coast, which are mandated to collect data on their catch, and had lots of negative experiences, how the data were misused. So they have to report this data to the government, but now decided that they would also record other data, right? So about the climate, about the site of their catch, lots of other data that they potentially can sell to research institutes, for example, who are interested in climate change. They can contribute to research or find other ways of making this data useful for themselves, right? For themselves. And so they also experiment with blockchain, and Philemon will be able to tell you more about that in his presentation. I know that there are some farmers here. How many farmers are here? Like, raise your hand. One farmer. Okay, awesome. Great. So farmers, of course, agriculture, right? One of the biggest areas in the United States. 55% of agriculture is touched by cooperatives, right? In this country, I'm sure it's very similar. So agriculture is often deeply cooperative. And so here, out of New York State, you have Grown By, which is a very simple idea. It's really, do you know what CSAs are? So, right, like, so basically bringing the vegetables directly from the farmer to the consumer, right, cutting out the middleman. And so what this app allows farmers to do is create their own CSA, right? So each farmer can create their own CSA and then market to consumers individually and deliver. So cutting out, and I have 5 minutes left. Awesome. Good. All right, then let me jump. It's just 5 minutes, so what can you do with 5 minutes? Do you have questions? All right. So maybe just a little bit on, because I don't know, we are coming in here with like our little helicopter, and so you don't know so much about the PCC, and so a little bit about our impact, right? So we have, there's a pretty large literature, so it's 1,660 articles in our library that you can find on our website, on platform cooperatives specifically. There are partners of us in 62 countries. We have convened like 9 international conferences. We have a research fellowship where we actively engage at a given time with 24, so we have 10 to 12 fellows per cohort, but we engage and work with about 24 PhD students at a time. We have taught 6 courses and a total of 1,500 students, which also includes courses with ITS, by the way. And so we published by March, so next year we will have 28 research reports, all of this accessible on our website, so from issues anywhere from Pietro writing about the ecosystem of Bologna and Milan and other cities and how these cooperative ecosystems work together. You can join our mailing lists, of course, and we started a collaboratory of, it's now 27 platform cooperatives that are meeting every month and try to coordinate and help each other, right? So, and yeah, a little bit in terms of traction, the sort of names of the partners. All right, and now I will, yeah, so this is sort of summing up some of my takes. Inclusive design is something that I hadn't mentioned, and also an emphasis on regulation. So there was so much talk on regulation, but I would really put the emphasis on municipal regulation, right? So at least standing here as somebody who has lived for a long time in the United States, my hope is really with the municipality. My hope is with the city, not so much with the federal government. Yeah, we haven't really talked about design very much. We saw many projects fail because a group sat in a lab and had fantastic ideas for how to platform co-op the entire city. And I would ask them, have you ever talked to the people out there? And they didn't really, but they were very enthusiastic, but also failed phenomenally then, right? Again, to think about business first, right? We see the groups that really emphasize business first, and think about the democracy second, succeeding, right? So first, have a business proposition, and then make sure that your business is democratically run, and don't start from scratch. All right, so this is a paper that I know there was a lot of talk, and we don't have talk much to go more into this, but we published a paper with some of the people who are here. Moshit is here, and with 2 other co-authors. I published this fairly lengthy policy paper on recommendations, how municipalities can introduce platform cooperatives, emphasis on municipalities, and we have, I excerpted 12 recommendations here from this paper, and for example, there's a lot of things that people can do, right? Like here in Rio de Janeiro, next month, right? This could be introduced. So pity that the mayor wasn't here. But we can send it to him. So to mandate, procurement policies, implementing solidarity-oriented loan programs, realize public participation in multi-stakeholder cooperatives, fund research to identify legal obstacles. That topic came up in the Fair Work discussion, right? Offer social benefits specifically to members of platform co-ops, create a list of physical spaces, and some cities have started to do that, like Brussels, for example. I think there's some in Barcelona as well, that support this kind of work, provide public recognition, like a prize or an award. That's all very easy to do. Improve the conditions of the operation of these forms, and provide purchasing preferences to give platform co-ops and other worker-owned firms fiscal bidding advantages, right? And yeah, fund incubators. We talked about this with Daniela. And fund municipal or national advisory committees and include platform co-ops in the political platform of parties, which we've seen in 4 cases already. So I should be like exactly on time. That's frightening, the German that I am. So that is it for me. Like if you have a question, this would be the time to do it.